The Los Angeles Clippers have not won a game since trading for James Harden, and in turn, the 76ers are undefeated. Now, what's wrong with the situation here? What's wrong with the Clippers? You have enough elite talent and Russell Westbrook and James Harden and Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. You have a few depth pieces still there. So why are they not functioning on all cylinders? Why are they failing as a quote unquote super team? That's what I'm going to talk about today. They came into the game today 3-5 against the Memphis Grizzlies, and the Memphis Grizzlies were 1-8. The Grizzlies have been one of the stories of the season, how poorly they've performed. And I know it's partly due to the fact that Ja Morant's out suspended for 25 games. It's partly due to the fact they're incorporating new players, right? They got in Marcus Smart. They moved on from Tyus Jones. Steven Adams got hurt early in the season. He's going to be out for the rest of the year, or I should say before the season. He'll be out for the rest of the year. And in parts of their season, I don't want to talk about the Grizzlies for too long, but in parts of their season, you kind of see where Tyus Jones could have been needed. You don't love the playmaking on this team. I think Jaren Jackson Jr. has been performing pretty well, but and Marcus Smart fits the grit and grind nature of the team, but I think you need the primary ball handler, and that's Ja Morant, right? And Ja Morant will be back, but you kind of wish you had Tyus Jones there. And I mean, they were in the trade for one another, right? That facilitated Kristaps Porzingis ending up in Boston, but so you can't have them both, obviously, unless that trade was completely reworked and someone else was moved. But you do feel like you could use a guy like Tyus Jones in that Grizzlies offense. But nonetheless, not talking about the Grizzlies here. I'm talking more about the LA Clippers and really a little bit about the Philadelphia 76ers. So the Clippers, they make this deal, right? They give up guys like Batum and Covington and Morris, and they bring in a guy like James Harden, and in theory, James Harden raises the ceiling of the team. In theory. Do I think he actually raises the ceiling? Of course. Of course. When you incorporate more talent, the possibilities of that team being even better are there, right? There's a chance the Clippers are the best team in the NBA, realistically. If every one of those four are firing on all cylinders, there's a chance they're right up there with the Denvers and the Bostons and the Milwaukees and the Phoenixes and the whoever else you want to rank near the top of the league, the 76ers as they currently sit, right? There's a chance that they're right up there. So I don't want to say that James Harden raises your ceiling or doesn't raise your ceiling. I do want to say that James Harden tends to go to teams and raise their floor when their floor was low. So if we take Harden off the Rockets, even when they had Russell Westbrook and Chris Paul and Dwight Howard, whatever, those teams are not playoff teams. And they were top seeds. They were going to conference finals. There was a year where they really should have beat the Warriors if Chris Paul didn't get hurt. The Kevin Durant Warriors, if Chris Paul didn't get hurt. And granted, that's because KD got hurt. But nonetheless, they had legit chances to make title runs. And I don't think they are anywhere close to that with Harden. And that's prime Harden, of course. Harden ends up going to Brooklyn, right? He becomes more of a playmaker, has hamstring issues, and he's clearly lost a step. And that's partially impacting the way the Clippers play. When Harden's making cuts, he's not only showing minimal effort, which he has done his whole career. No offense to him. But he also doesn't have the burst to the rim that he once did. And I think that kind of hampers him. That's really never been his game. The ability to be able to make a cut and get a pass and get to the rim. I don't think that's been his game. I digress. I don't think that's the problem with the Clippers. I think that's part of the problem. And obviously part of it is getting to know your new teammates and, finding the blend of how you play together. When a guy like Kawhi Leonard has a quote that says basically, I'm just looking to make shots when I get the ball. That's not how you should run the Clippers, because Kawhi Leonard's the best player on the team. I don't think that's a stretch. So obviously there's some more work to be done, right? There's some more teamwork. There's some more coaching that needs to be worked on. There's some more rotational things. There's some more plays that need to be drawn up that are more conducive to taking advantage of the talent you have. But nonetheless, I think what we're seeing is partially the play styles not quite being perfect, in that I believe the best version of Paul George has the ball in his hands a lot. And adding Russell Westbrook to that team when Russell Westbrook could be staggered a little bit, could have his own minutes where he's handling the ball a lot, and you got a guy in Paul George who can really play that point forward role. I think that worked kind of well for them last year when Kawhi was healthy. And then you have moments where you let Kawhi get his own shot, right? He's an elite scorer. And by adding Harden, you're taking the ball out of Paul George's hands, right? And of course, he's shooting poorly, and that'll obviously fade, right? He'll get better at shooting the ball. As I mean, all the stars ever since the Harden trade have not shot very well, and that'll change, right? They're all better shooters than they're shooting by right now. But I think that's one limitation to the Harden trade that I hope Ty Lue tends to explore more. Like in my head, there should be three guys taking up the ball all game: Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Paul George. And obviously, you want to give some to Kawhi Leonard, every so often. But in terms of guys taking the ball up the court, should be no one else. We shouldn't see Terrence Mann taking the ball up the court, in my opinion. And I'm an amateur basketball fan, right? I'm a casual, if you will. So take my opinion with the great assault. But I think that's part of the problem. I think in some aspects, there's a little bit of a leadership element here. And unfortunately, Kawhi Leonard's never been that alpha male leader that some teams need to kind of snap out of something like this. Paul George has never really been that guy. And maybe that's been the criticism of the Clippers over the years and why they got rid of a guy like Doc Rivers and brought in a guy like Ty Lue. It fits a little more of their culture situation. I think James Harden is that guy, but I don't think he wants to be that guy yet. And I think Russell Westbrook is that guy, but you can't have the fourth member of the team do that. And I shouldn't say the fourth member of the team. That kind of sounds weird, but the fourth best player being that vocal leader, in my opinion, at least. You see that in a case like Boston was in previous years. Marcus Smart was their vocal leader, right? Marcus Smart was the leader of the team, the alpha male, if you will, even though I really can't stand that phrase. And I think that tended to work against them, especially in clutch moments when he was the guy leading and taking the shot, when they really wanted guys like Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown taking the shot. I think that wore thin, and I think that's why they ended up making the switch for Kristaps Porzingis, and then ended up getting Drew Holiday, who's the perfect guy to let Tatum and Smart take the shot. So I think they worked out for the better there, even though I said Tatum and Smart, Tatum and Brown take the shot. Yeah, I think they worked out for the better there, even though they lost a key culture piece in Marcus Smart. And so the Clippers have to find that. I think that's part of it, and I also think a few of the role players could be playing better. PJ Tucker has looked bad since he came over, but PJ Tucker's game is what it is. I mean, he's going to shoot better than he has recently, right? But he is what he is. You're playing him at small ball center, which I don't hate, honestly, playing alongside the other four stars, because Kawhi Leonard is very athletic and has the height. Paul George is pretty tall as well. Russell Westbrook's a great rebounding guard, has been for his whole career. And Harden's Harden. He's still got some size on him. So PJ Tucker's going to shoot a little bit better, but outside of that, he doesn't provide a whole lot, right? Defensively, he's good at guarding Kevin Durant sometimes, but even then, I mean, he let him have 50 last year, or not last year, a couple years ago against the Bucks, 2021 in the playoffs. So, you take it with a grain of salt. Zubac is probably going to play better, right? Terrence Mann, these guys are probably going to be playing better. But nonetheless, the stars themselves will end up shooting better. And no matter the scheme fit, the stars have to be the stars, and they're not that. And I think in a team with so many offensive weapons, this shouldn't be this much of a struggle offensively. The talent should win out, and maybe it will, right? It's only been 4 games. Maybe it will. And, maybe after the New York game, we were all like, okay, who cares? After the Brooklyn game, we were like, okay, who cares? After losing to Luka, yeah, it's Luka. He hates the Clippers for some reason and absolutely spazzes against them every single game he plays against them. The loss to the Grizzlies, now it's time to take a look at things. And the Clippers could very well come back in their next game. I mean, they're playing the Nuggets next game, so that's kind of a rough matchup. But they play the Rockets the game after that. They play the Spurs the game after that, and the Spurs again, then the Pelicans. They could have bounce back performances there. These guys could shoot well, right? Kawhi could wake up and be dominant like he always is, right? Paul George could get back to shooting like he was early in the season. But I think the key for them is, one, I think they need to switch Russell Westbrook to a bench role. And it's something that I thought was going to happen when they first acquired James Harden. I imagined in my head the starting lineup being Harden at the 1, Paul George at the 2, Kawhi Leonard or PJ Tucker at 3 and 4, and then Zubac at the 5. And then you bring Russell Westbrook, you bring Terrence Mann and off the bench, you bring who else? I'm like blanking on the rest of their roster right now. But you have some pieces that you could bring in off the bench and make it work alongside Russell Westbrook. And even though they traded a lot of their depth at the power forward position, They still had some valuable pieces. Amir Coffey, Bones Highland, still could come off the bench, right? Diabate hasn't been too bad for them either. I think we've seen Kobe Brown could use some more minutes as well. He got some garbage time minutes recently. Mason Plumlee, if he ever comes back from his injury, shout out to him. I hope everything goes well. Of course, Norman Powell. How could I forget? Who really I think would play quite well alongside Russell Westbrook, and I say I think plays quite well alongside Russell Westbrook. So him coming off the bench, I think works well. Maybe you move Norm Powell to the starting lineup and you keep PJ Tucker on the bench. I don't know. I don't love that. I think PJ Tucker's a good complement to the other guys. Not going to require the ball, going to take threes, going to be a defensive player for them. And by having Paul George at the shooting guard, you allow him to be the secondary ball handler, allow him to be the guy in the starting lineup that's taking the ball up the court. And then in crunch time, if you want to put in Russell Westbrook, right? If you're closing minutes, you want to put in Russell Westbrook for PJ Tucker, then maybe you do that. But nonetheless, I think that's the first change that has to be made. I think the second change, like I mentioned, put the ball in Paul George's hands. I think that's just what you need to do. And the third change, I think you got to let Kawhi Leonard work a little bit more. And I think they made more of an effort at that against the Grizzlies. I didn't watch the whole Grizzlies game, but for the most part, they made a better effort at that, especially early. I think they need to let him get his shot when he wants it. And in order for that to be successful, the other guys on the court have to buy into making open shots where they're at and moving without the ball. And I know that's difficult for James Harden to do. And it's always been difficult for James Harden to do. But James Harden needs to be able to hit a catch and shoot three off of a Kawhi Leonard double team, right? If Kawhi Leonard has the ball going up mid-range, gets another guy on him, he passes out, that next guy has to be ready to hit a shot. And as of recently, they haven't been doing that. They haven't had that many kind of catch and shoot opportunities from this exact action that I'm describing. But nonetheless, they have to be ready to do that. And that's going to take more off-ball movement. And you see in offenses like the Warriors, right? Steph is the king of off-ball movement, never stops moving. And then there's other offenses where I think it could really be used more. Dallas Mavericks, I think, are an example of this. And I don't want to say too much negative about the Mavericks. They're 8-2. They're right near the top of the Western Conference. But I feel like there's some moments where Kyrie Irving could be moving more off the ball and kind of open things a little more up for Luka. And obviously I keep messing that up. Obviously Kyrie's the second option there, but the ability to move without the ball like Curry does is the first option, I think would really help him open some things up. And he does do that. I shouldn't say that he doesn't, but I feel like it could happen even more. And so for a team like the Clippers, I think James Harden has to buy into that. And maybe that's Ty Lue's coaching that gets him to buy into that. I don't know. But I think that's something they need to look for more. Other than that, I think the team just needs time. And it's going to take a work to balance out these four stars, right? This is not a situation that's as easily molded as, for example, when you had Harden and Kyrie and KD in Brooklyn, and you had three offensive superstars that could create their own shot at every moment. It was pretty much just, let's get the easiest matchup and work it well. Well, they also had some good role players like Blake Griffin before he completely lost his mojo, and Bruce Brown and Joe Harris when he was not shooting like crap, and et cetera, that were able to complement those guys well and play alongside those guys. For the Clippers, they're not as seamless as an offensive fit. And even though the talent is there and they really should be better offensively, it's not going to be easy. And I think Ty Lue's the perfect guy for that job. I think he's one of the better coaches in the NBA, if not, I don't want to say the best coach, but he's top 3 or 4 at worst, right? You got Spoelstra, you got Pop, you got Kerr. Ty Lue's right there. And so I think he could be the guy to do it. I think he could be the guy to unlock them. And like he said, maybe we give them 10, 15 games and they're on a winning streak and they're, right back in the middle of the Western Conference. It's still early, but I do think they need to make some changes and try some things out if it doesn't turn around soon. Let me know what you think about the Clippers, what you think about their performance. Oh, let me talk about the 76ers real quick. I promised that at the start of the episode. The 76ers 8-1, coincidentally also where the Philadelphia Eagles are at in the NFL, both Philly teams at 8-1. For the 76ers, trading James Harden opened things up for them, and opened things up specifically for Tyrese Maxey. And I think what makes Tyrese Maxey so elite, I shouldn't say that elite of a player, but so elite in his role and where he's at today. And I think he's going to be an all-star this year, especially after that 50-point performance tonight. Is his speed getting to the basket is elite. It's one of the best I've ever seen in the NBA, really. And so because his ability to get the basket is so great, when he is getting downhill from the mid-court area and he's getting to the 3-point line, that defender is creating space because it's like almost like a defensive back that's against Tyreek Hill, right? He's got to leave some room in order for Tyreek Hill to, kind of catch up and close the distance, right? Because if he is too close to Tyrese Maxey or Tyreek Hill, whoever we're talking about, that defensive player is going to get blown right by. So he stays a little bit distant because he knows that Tyrese Maxey can get to the rim, and then Tyrese Maxey has all this space at the 3-point line, and he's a very good 3-point shooter. I think that's really what opened things up a lot for them, is that kind of quick action. Embiid plays very, very well off of that, which I commend him for, because he's been known to be a plodding, slow player. So the ability to take advantage of an offense that relies on a little more quick movement, that fits a little bit more of what Tyrese Maxey does, I think works well for him. And maybe he was just slow because that's the offense that was run under James Harden, because I don't think he really had that reputation under Ben Simmons, who also likes to go fast, although for different reasons, right? Not to create 3-point looks, obviously. So I commend them. I think the James Harden trade was something that, even if they didn't get great value, there is a little bit of an element of addition by subtraction. And I brought that up when this trade happened, that even though they didn't get great pieces, they got a decent amount, right? They got players who could play a role for them, and they opened it up so the player that they had in that position could really take that leap and be in most improved player conversations by the end of the year. And who knows, right? He might slow down, he might speed up. We have no idea what he'll be by the end of the season. But so far, I think he's right there. He's right there for the most improved. It's him, or it's Cam Thomas, or those two are pretty close up there. And maybe that's just my bias as a Nets fan, right? But you have some other guys that are obviously playing well and significantly improving year over year. But nonetheless, more the point is that the ability to let Tyrese Maxey kind of flow in that offense, I think, really works well for them. And I think it showed when he took over for Ben Simmons, when Ben Simmons was out. And I know James Harden was a worthy addition at the time, but Tyrese Maxey's development kind of slowed down. It's cool to see him take the reins. And he's a fun player to watch, even though I really can't stand the 76ers as a Nets fan. Tyrese Maxey is just a fun guy to root for, right? Always smiling, always fast, quick. He's like a little kid out there having fun. So it's fun to see for sure. I give them props for making the move, even if they didn't get a huge return, because I think it could still benefit them in the long term because of Tyrese Maxey's development. But anyway, that's it on these two teams. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think the Clippers season is cooked? Do you think they could improve? What do you think of the 76ers? Are they the real deal? Are they going to be able to keep up with Milwaukee and Boston in the East? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you for watching this Quick Thoughts episode. I hope you enjoyed. Peace out.